There are countless ancient enigmas out there that we will most likely never unravel. It's not that we lack the desire to do so. It's just that in many cases, remarkable old mysteries and eerie long forgotten, unexplained events occurred too long ago for us to thoroughly investigate with events that took place decades or even centuries ago. We can't interview witnesses or delve into the depths of peculiar occurrences, therefore. Numerous mysteries from history are better left to ponder and speculate about without ever truly knowing the answers. It's quite enjoyable in a way. And of course, we would love to uncover the truth behind these past mysteries, but contemplating the possibilities leads to entertaining debates and discussions with friends, and that's exactly what we're here for. Today in this compilation, we will explore mysteries that are highly unlikely to ever be solved. Number 5. The Circleville Letters, 1977. It started back in the summer of 1977 when a woman living in Circleville, Ohio, got a mysterious letter in the mail. When she read it, she found strange, poorly written words on the paper. The letter mentioned that an unknown person had been watching her home. More, the writer of the letter had a secret that only she knew. She was having an affair with the local school superintendent. This revelation made the woman anxious as she realized someone was spying on her and her family. Unfortunately, the situation was about to take a darker turn. A few weeks later, the person who wrote the initial letter decided to send another one to the woman's husband. In this letter, they revealed the affair and even encouraged the husband to kill both his wife and the school administrator she was cheating with. However, despite waiting for 2 weeks, the letter writer didn't see any action being taken. This made them send yet another anonymous letter to the husband, pushing him to finally do something about it. This made the husband extremely angry, so he grabbed a gun and got into his car. He even told witnesses that he was going to kill the letter writer, implying that he knew who it was. However, while driving in a rush to confront the person behind the letters, the husband ended up getting into a terrible car accident and died. Even after his death, the letters didn't stop. They continued to arrive for years. Not just to the woman who received the first one, but to many other residents of Circleville as well. What was even more shocking was that these letters contained personal information about the recipient's information that they had no idea how the mysterious writer had obtained. Not only that, but the letters also contained outrageous accusations and specific threats of violence. This prompted the involvement of the police. However, despite their efforts, they were never able to uncover the truth behind the letters. To this day, the identity of the letter writer and their motives for causing chaos in Circleville remain. Number 4. The Lead Masks Case, 1966. On August 20th, 1966, a young kid was flying a kite on a remote and hard-to-reach hill near Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Out of nowhere, he stumbled upon the bodies of 2 men. He immediately rushed down the hill to inform the police about his shocking discovery. However, due to the difficult terrain, it took the authorities until the next day to reach the hill and retrieve the bodies. When the police and firefighters finally arrived, they were greeted by a perplexing sight. The 2 men were lying side by side, partially covered by grass. What made it even stranger was that both men were dressed in formal suits, wearing waterproof coats and lead eye masks. It made no sense for them to be wearing such attire on top of the hill, leaving the cops utterly bewildered. Beside the lifeless bodies, there was an empty water bottle and a packet containing 2 wet towels. But the most puzzling item of all was a small notebook with a series of timed instructions written in Portuguese. The rough translation into English read, 1630, be at the specified location, 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals, await signal mask. Naturally, this sent shivers down the investigators' spines. Eventually, the 2 men were identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Josviana, both Brazilian electronic technicians. Their families had last seen them 3 days prior to the boys' discovery on the hillside. Unfortunately, the coroner's report, which could have potentially shed some light on the case, never materialized in time. The coroner's office in Rio de Janeiro was overwhelmed with a backlog of cases and medical examinations at that time. As a result, the bodies remained unautopsied for several days. By the time the coroner finally got to them, the organs had decomposed too much to determine if the men had consumed any significant substances before their deaths. Since then, this baffling discovery has remained an unsolved and eerie mystery. Number 3. The Green Children of Woolpit, 1100s. In the middle of the 12th century, 2 young kids with green-tinted skin mysteriously appeared in the small village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England. They were believed to be siblings due to their resemblance in ages. The villagers couldn't understand their strange language. What made them even more peculiar was their unsettling green skin tone and their preference for raw broad beans when offered food. The most baffling part was that they had entered the village unnoticed, and no one knew where they came from or what their lives were like before arriving. Over time, the villagers tried to help the children adjust to their new life. Unfortunately, the boy fell ill and passed away shortly after arriving. Despite their efforts, his frail health couldn't be saved. However, the girl gradually regained her strength and even lost the green tint on her skin. Eventually, she was baptized and learned to speak English. According to the legend, she revealed to the villagers that she came from a place called St. Martin's Land, where the sun never shone, and everything was perpetually covered in twilight. She claimed that everything there was green. Naturally, there are reasons to be skeptical about this story. It took place almost 1,000 years ago, so we can only rely on the reports from that time, moreover. Historians are uncertain about the exact time frame, although they are certain it happened during King Stephen's reign from 1135 to 1154, therefore. The true story behind the Green Children of Woolpit will likely remain a mystery forever. Number 2. The Mary Celeste, 1872. On December 4, 1872, travelers sailing in the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores, a few hundred miles west of Portugal, stumbled upon the Mary Celeste. This ship, built in Canada, belonged to an American merchant brigantine firm. It was carrying valuable cargo and was supposed to be en route to Europe at that time. About a month earlier, on November 7th, the ship had departed from New York City with the intention of heading to Genoa, Italy. On board, there was a significant amount of alcohol that was meant to be delivered to Genoa. These expensive provisions were still present on the ship when the Canadian brigantine Dei Gratia discovered the Mary Celeste floating near the Azores. The eerie part was that when the Dei Gratia approached the Mary Celeste, they found no signs of human activity on board. The alcohol supplies were untouched, and the crew's provisions were fully stocked, indicating that nobody was starving or in distress. Furthermore, all the personal belongings of the crew on the Mary Celeste were undisturbed, however. The crew members who were supposed to be operating the ship were nowhere to be found. Every single one of them had disappeared without a trace. The ship's log didn't provide any additional clues either, as the last entry was made 10 days prior. What made it even more peculiar was that the ship was still in good condition and floating perfectly fine. It had been partially under sail when the Dei Gratia discovered it. And interestingly, the lifeboat was missing, however. Apart from that, nothing else was gone, and there were no signs of the ship being damaged in a storm. So, what could have possibly happened? The men who had joined the crew in New York for that ill-fated voyage of the Mary Celeste were never heard from again, and the truth behind their disappearance remains a mystery. Was it a mutiny, piracy, or perhaps an insurance scam orchestrated by the ship's owners, who wanted to salvage the cargo and resorted to eliminating the crew? The answer to this enigma will likely remain unknown forever. Number 1. The Flann Lighthouse Mystery, 1900s. On December 15, 1900, a steamship called Arctur was sailing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Leith, Scotland. During a rough storm, they noticed that the lighthouse on Scotland's remote Flann Isles was not functioning properly. When the Arctur arrived in Leith 3 days later, they reported the situation to the Northern Lighthouse Board. The board immediately dispatched a relief ship to investigate the issue on the Scottish Isle, however, due to bad weather. The relief ship didn't reach the lighthouse until December 26. Almost 10 days later, when they arrived, they expected to find 3 men, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, who were supposed to be working at the lighthouse. But to their surprise, the relief ship's crew couldn't find any trace of the 3 men on the island. The situation was quite mysterious from the beginning. The lighthouse's flagstaff had no flag, the provision boxes were missing from the landing stage, and there was no sign of the lighthouse crew anywhere nearby. Upon entering the compound, they discovered that the entrance gate was closed, the beds were unmade, and the clock in the restroom was unwound. They also found cleaned and refilled lamps sitting inside, but they were not being used. It seemed that the missing keepers had left without taking the lamps with them. No evidence of the 3 men was ever found, and their bodies were never discovered on the shore or elsewhere. The fate of the keepers remains a mystery to this day, despite various theories, such as the possibility of them starting a new life or encountering an unforeseen tragedy that swept them into the ocean. Their whereabouts remain completely unknown.